Hello my friends, I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be trying out the viral new CoverGirl foundation. It's the Simply Ageless Skin Perfector Essence. This is such a fascinating product because there's been buzz that this is supposed to be a dupe to the very iconic Chanel Le Beige foundation. I have been seeing this foundation everywhere and I wanted to put it to the test myself. Luckily I bought it last week because it's literally selling out everywhere, which is insane. The very first thing that I noticed when I placed my order on Ulta's website was the CoverGirl foundation is so expensive for a drugstore foundation. This retails for $21.49 on Ulta's website, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever seen a drugstore foundation priced that high. Since when were we paying over $20 for a drugstore foundation? This $21 price tag makes it the most expensive CoverGirl product that they've released so far. I think what made people excited about this product in the first place was that it looks so similar and is supposed to be a dupe for the Chanel foundation, which I've never tried before. So while I was on Ulta, I was like, wait a second, we gotta compare the two. The Chanel foundation is $70, so much steeper of a price point. I'm honestly initially shocked by the price point on both of these, considering they're more of like a skin tint product, which I feel like for a small amount of coverage, both products seem really like steeply priced for the amount of coverage that you're gonna get. But with that being said, I haven't tried a formula like this before, and there's a reason why the Chanel one is so famous. People love it, so I really want to see if this CoverGirl dupe is worth even the $20 price tag, and we really have to see how it compares exactly to that iconic Chanel foundation. Before we test these foundations side by side, don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're not a subscriber already. It really helps support my channel. It's completely free to subscribe, as you probably know. I have a goal to reach 1 million subscribers on YouTube. I would love to be able to do that this year, so if you want to help me out in doing that, just click the subscribe button, and let's get to trying these foundations. My order came in, so here we go. Let's start off with the high-end product. So this is the Chanel Le Beige Water Fresh Tint. Here's exactly how it came in this lovely little box. And this is our $70 foundation. 70. For a skin tint, I'm still skeptical, but I'm here to answer all of my questions and hopefully yours as well. The special thing about these foundations is they have like an encapsulated pigment inside of it. This is the lightest shade that they offer. This is the shade Light. This comes in 8 shades. It also includes a little flat top kabuki brush that you're supposed to use to apply it. As I dove into my research of what could potentially make these similar and different, both of these are water-based foundations. So the Chanel foundation has 75% water, with up to 8 hours of hydration, where its competitor, this little number right here, is 71% water with up to 24 hours of hydration. So CoverGirl has a little bit more of a heavy skincare leaning claim compared to the Chanel one. So I'm really excited to see how they compare. Here's that viral foundation, the CoverGirl Simply Ageless Skin Perfector Essence. This has 0.5% bakuchiol, which is supposed to be like a retinol alternative. According to Paula's Choice, 0.5 to 2% is an effective percentage to where you will see visible results. So that's supposed to help with like cell turnover. It's like an anti-aging ingredient essentially. Here they are side by side. You can see the CoverGirl pigments are a little bit larger than the Chanel ones, but obviously you get a very similar vibe. Both have 1 ounce of product in it, which means the Chanel foundation is over 3 times the price of the CoverGirl one. So this has 4.8 stars out of 5 on Chanel's website, where the CoverGirl one on the CoverGirl website is leaning towards more 4 stars. So I'm excited to see if like those reflect how these actually perform or not. Let's try these on. We're gonna start with the Chanel foundation since this is the original. The packaging on this is definitely more substantial than the CoverGirl. I like how there's kind of like a frosted outer layer. And even though I haven't tried a foundation quite like this before, I do know that in the instructions on both products, you're gonna wanna like really blend the two formulas together. So there's like the water base and then the pigments, either with your fingers or a brush that has more of a dense top like this one. This is what came with the Chanel foundation, but you can see this is something that's dense enough to break apart those pigments before you apply them to the face. So let's get into this. Okay, hopefully you can see on the back of my hand, it's a pretty watery foundation to start. And I'm gonna use that brush to just break apart the pigments on the back of my hand and really like kind of press them into the Chanel brush. All right, we're gonna do this one on this side of the face. Luckily, I have quite a bit of hyperpigmentation happening right now, so we're gonna be able to see the level of coverage that these give. They're not meant to give tons of coverage. It's more of like a your skin but better type of a product. Okay, this one does have a fragrance, which I really don't like about super high-end products. I don't love fragrance in my foundation, but as I'm applying this, okay, I can kind of see why people like products like this. The water base allows it to really feel like it's skincare sinking into the skin, but then you get those pigments that kind of give you just the right amount of coverage without looking overdone at all. Like it hardly looks like I've got anything on my skin. I'm even looking up close and it's just blending in so beautifully, and that's just with a brush. I normally go back over everything with a sponge, which I'll do now. And you can see how much less redness is showing on this side compared to this side, but it still looks like skin. Like you can still see my skin underneath, and it gives a very fresh, like I just applied my skincare kind of a look to the skin. I'm getting the vibe. I'm actually like understanding the hype over this. This is perfect if you like want to look virtually flawless, but you also want to look like it's your skin that's flawless, not the makeup that you made look like skin. Does that make sense? Like it's very, very skin-like, extremely skin-like. This makes me very excited to try out the CoverGirl version. I did actually pick up 2 shades. I got fair and light. I'm thinking that I'm gonna want to go for the fair color just to kind of try to match the Chanel one. It's interesting because in the bottle, this looks like it's gonna be way too dark, but it's actually a really perfect match for me, so keep that in mind with the Chanel one. Okay, it's time to try the CoverGirl one. Very similar texture. You can see how it's super watery. This one, like the pigments kind of break apart a little easier than the Chanel one, but that's just me being super like observant. I don't think anyone would really care since you're supposed to break them apart anyway. So same thing, I'm gonna use a similar style brush to break apart those pigments on the back of my hand just to make sure it's evenly mixed before applying it to the face. So now let's try this side. You can see it has a bit of coverage like the Chanel one. I actually feel like these shades are exactly the same. This one does not have fragrance, which actually is nice. I prefer that in a product, especially more of like a skincare feeling type of a product. I don't know if it's the brush, but this one almost feels more wet. Like it feels a little more watery than the Chanel one. Maybe it has like a cooling effect. I can't really tell what's giving that sensation. If it's actually just super watery or if there's some sort of like a cooling sensation happening. Same exact level of coverage. You can see, I mean, you would never be able to tell coverage wise what I have on my face, and you'd never be able to tell that upon application anyway. This side is $21 and this one is $70. Okay, this is where I'm gonna have to really compare because they have a very light coverage, so it's not as obvious to see which side is doing what. So far, and I'll have to wait and see if this sets a little bit more, but it seems like the Chanel foundation sets into the skin a little bit more and kind of like smooths out the pores here. Like I'm noticing it almost has a little bit more of like a gel feeling to it where it dries into the skin, where this one so far is a little bit more watery, but I'm gonna give it a minute to see if that changes and see if it kind of like dries down the way that the Chanel one did. What do you guys think initially? I will say I'm seeing a little bit of like pigment settling right here on the CoverGirl side. It's sort of happening here as well, and maybe it's just the nature of this type of product, but it doesn't seem quite as intense as this side. I'm pleasantly surprised with the first application at both formulas. I've never tried a formula like this exactly, but I can see what the hype is about for just a super skin-like finish, but it kind of like gives you a boost of confidence knowing that all the redness is just kind of blurred a little bit, but it still looks very much like skin. So I kind of see what the appeal is. I'm still shocked at both price points, honestly, since it looks virtually like I don't have anything on my face. So I'm interested to see as I wear both formulas if I feel like these are worth the money. But upon application, I really like how fresh my face looks. And it feels comfortable. Both formulas feel very, very comfortable on the skin, which I really like. I'm gonna finish up my makeup. I'm gonna do something really light to just complement this super fresh skin tint kind of a look. And then we're gonna start our wear test. I'm really excited to see how these compare and if by the end of the night we see a difference or not. So I'll see you guys in a second. All right, so I just finished my makeup. I feel like the products applied really nicely on top of both foundations. I did keep it pretty minimal, so I only did concealer here and here so that we could really see how the coverage holds up throughout the day. The main thing that I'm noticing is there's a tiny bit more visible pores right here on the CoverGirl side. This one's looking similar, but it's not quite as intense. Other than that, everything looks identical. All right, so it's currently 3:40 2:43 p.m. I'm gonna be wearing this for several hours, even though neither of these have longevity claims. They only say like they're hydrating up to a certain amount of time. I wanna see how they wear. So I'll see you guys in an hour for my first check-in, and we'll see how everything is holding up. All right, so I'm back for my very first check-in. I told you guys I'd be back in an hour. Listen, it's now been 3 hours, but that's okay, because then it gets us closer to our final result quicker, you know? So far, I've actually really liked how my skin looks, and honestly, the longer it's on my skin, the more similar they're looking. Things are looking a little bit more dewy on my forehead, which you guys know is very normal for me. I have a more oily T-zone, so that's not surprising. I didn't use any setting spray today so that I could really see how these wear, and I'm also not gonna touch up with powder, which I normally do in my day-to-day life, but I just like to see how these products hold up without any like interference from other products. I feel like they look the exact same right now. You know how I said that the pores here were more emphasized than this side? I think that was true upon application, but now they look pretty identical. And it's not even something that's super like obvious unless you were looking microscopically at my skin. It's not really a big deal. This is definitely something that's super fresh. It's gonna look like you're not even wearing anything, so it still looks like skin. Those are my thoughts so far. Let's wear it for a few more hours and see how they look at the end of the night. All right, so I'm back in the studio. It's currently 11:11, make a wish. I've been wearing this for almost 8 hours, so let's talk about the comparison side by side. I will say I've really liked how my complexion looked all day, and I actually forgot that I was wearing two completely different foundations because to me they really are so similar. If I'm looking up close, I still only notice this side of the face having slightly more emphasized pores than the Chanel side. That's literally it. I feel like the finish is exactly the same. The way that it's wearing feels exactly the same. I feel like my skin looks fresh. It feels nice. It feels like there's like no makeup on both sides because of just the nature of this product being that it's more of like a hydrating skin tint water-based type of a product. Since both of these foundations are brand new to me, I'm gonna rate both of them based off of my new rating system, which if you guys didn't see my last video, I feel like this is a really fun way for me to put my stamp of approval on all the products that I review since I review so many products all the time. So green obviously means it's approved by me. It's something that I will use up and repurchase again. Yellow is something that I feel like I might enjoy or maybe somebody else might enjoy, but it's not something that I'm gonna rebuy. And then red, of course, means I'm not going to recommend it. So starting with the Chanel Le Beige Water Fresh Tint, I'm actually pleasantly surprised by this. This is something that I have heard so much about, and for me, I mean, the price tag is what makes me hesitant, but if we're just talking about the formula alone, I feel like it's a really beautiful, very fresh, no makeup, like your skin, but insanely better type of a product. So if you're looking for something to put all over the skin to just even out the skin tone, but you're not wanting a foundation look, I think you would really like something like this. The cons for me are that there's fragrance in this, which I don't love. However, I didn't notice it lingering on my skin, which is really nice. So for me, I'm gonna give this like a yellow. I feel like it would potentially be a yellow green, but I think I'm gonna have to like work with it a little bit more. And I feel like because of the price tag, that's why I'm leaning more toward yellow, because looking side by side, while I feel like this really did perform a little bit more luxuriously than the Covergirl, ultimately at the end of the day, they both look so similar that I feel like the price tag really makes me lean heavily toward the Covergirl one. So I would say that this is a dupe for the Chanel Water Fresh Tint. There are some slight differences, but they're really not noticeable. Like I said, once they're on the face, I feel like the formulas are a bit different. And actually there's a little bit more skincare focus with the Covergirl one, which is kind of interesting. You get the bakuchi oil in here. I feel like, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I do feel like the initial feel of this is kind of funny. I would say that if you've tried this and it's not working out for you, ask yourself if you've used a brush, because I feel like this blended out with my fingertips was not as seamless as this one. I feel like this you could really get away with just kind of like blending it into the skin directly with your fingertips. This I feel like would really help if you have a dense flat top brush to kind of break up those beads a little bit more. It just didn't melt into each other the way that the Chanel one did, but the brush helped that kind of blend together really well, and the end result was beautiful. So for me, I feel like the Covergirl one honestly gets a green. Of course, you have to use a brush, I feel like. I don't feel like it would look as good using your fingers, so keep that in mind. I know it's $20, but also this is $70, so for me, it's like a no-brainer. I feel like if you want to try a formula like this and you've never experienced it before, or maybe you're like me and you've heard of the Chanel one and you kind of want to see what the vibe is, this is going to be something that I think you would really enjoy testing out. I still feel like $21 is steep for a drugstore foundation, and I just feel like maybe it's because of the type of formula, because essentially it's just a skin tint at the end of the day, so you're kind of paying for this pigment, you know, dispersion, I suppose. And I do think that they do have a little bit more like skincare ingredients in here, which is not always common for drugstore products to have a higher percentage of like an active ingredient. This for me is a green. What do you guys think? Have you tried either of these? What are you feeling about the Covergirl versus Chanel? If you could only choose one, which one would you choose? This is such a beautiful type of formula, but I do feel like for me, it's a little bit overhyped. I don't know, at least right now. I feel like you can get a very similar effect for a lot less than even this one with a lot of the different skin tints that have launched at the drugstore. I understand that they might not have like this kind of pigment encapsulated situation, but you're gonna get a very, very similar effect once it's actually blended on the skin. So keep that in mind as well. There's other skin tints out there that could potentially give you that little hint of coverage, hint of glow. I do think the water base is unique, however, in the sense that it really feels like it absorbs into the skin. So it does feel slightly different, but if you're just looking for a skin tint effect, you honestly could probably look for something even more affordable than the CoverGirl one, and certainly more affordable than the Chanel one. So as always, let me know if there's something you guys would like to see me review in the future. You guys know I love testing out makeup, so be sure to leave a comment. I love hearing from you guys. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss a video from me, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Love you.